I won't waste your time. We did something in that cave. We thought it was only sound and water. We thought that made it clean. It wasn't. I went back alone to take what we left and fix the right. I took a lantern and a knife. No one saw me. I waited for the low tide and walked down the rocks with the salt in my mouth and the grit under my nails, and I told myself I was doing it to stop it. At the mouth, there was the old frame and the bell, rusted through, no clapper. The rope we'd used hung down the drop. It was the same rope. I could see the fray in the twist where I cut it once. I grabbed it and it left powder on my hand like rust, but rope. I tested my weight. It held. The sea pulled at the pebbles behind me and hissed. I said the first line, quiet, just to try the air. My whisper came back wrong, not late like it should be. It came early, a little bit, and then again late, a little bit. It wobbled in my ear. I shut up and climbed down. The salt stung more as I went in. The air changed. The walls were wet and rough. The rope rubbed my wrists and wept tar. Cold pools sat black under the ledge. I moved slow, lantern out, knife in my belt. My boots slid in the slime. The drips had a pattern I didn't like. I told myself it was just tide math and old brain noise. We had etched names in the stone along the first chamber. It had been my job to spell them straight, to press the nail in and pull down clean. I ran my thumb along the line where I remembered mine and the first one. It wasn't there. The first name was 2 hands to the left and down low. I found mine crooked and shallow near the floor. I didn't put it there. My stomach turned and I told myself I missed it last time. I told myself it didn't matter. We called the side passages rope routes. We had a main, left at the pool with the barnacles that looked like teeth, right at the choke where you had to lie flat. I didn't trust memory now. I tied a loop in my line and clipped to the old ring in the wall and fed it around me. The line scraped and whispered. The lantern sputtered and I shook it gentle. I checked the oil with 2 fingers. Enough. The air tasted like coins. My eyes watered. I talked to keep my head. I'm taking it, I said. No one's getting hurt. My voice went out and came back, late this time. Then the same thing, but thinner, early. I felt someone behind my ear like a mouth without heat. I turned, and the light swung and showed nothing but wet stone and my own fog. I kept on. The passage dropped. Low tide, but the pools moved like something breathed in the rock. There was a rusted bracket where a second bell had been. Empty. We had thought more sound made it work better. We were idiots. I ducked under a lip and scraped my back and said the counter prayer we wrote later. I didn't sing it. I mouthed it. No more. No take. Seal and sleep. That sort. It tasted like salt and old metal and I felt dumb saying it. I got to the first chamber we called the throat. Barnacled altar ahead. It was a natural ledge we had cleaned to flat, then left to crust over so it looked like it belonged. Barnacles layered it now. Sharp. Bits of shell. There were smears older than this tide, brown and gray, and I didn't look long. The bell frame was above. Empty ring. The relic was supposed to be under the lip. 3 finger bones wired together. That's what we hit the bell with. Bone knocks. We called it the knocker. Someone thought that was funny. I put the lantern on a dry spot and knelt. My knees went cold. I felt under the ledge and my fingers went over old cuts where we kept the offering bowl. It wasn't there. I felt farther. A crab bolted and I yanked back and swore. Okay, I said. Okay. My whisper came back from the passage earlier than I could breathe it and said, okay. Just like me. Then again, from the chamber mouth, slow and late. I did not like that. I wiped my hand on my jeans and they were wet already. My palms left prints on the stone. When I lifted them, I saw I had left 8. 2 were mine. The others lay beside them. Thinner, long fingers, a child's small one. Wet. New. I checked the ceiling with the light. Nothing above me but rock. I stood and the lantern sputtered. The flame leaned, then hopped, and I hit the glass with my thumb, like that would help. It steadied. I had oil. I knew I had oil. The rope around my waist tugged when I turned, and I told myself it was just memory pulling. I told myself a lot of things. The knocker wasn't there. The altar had a crack up the back that I didn't remember. I ran my finger in it and it bit me. I licked the cut and tasted old ocean. I spat. I heard the spit hit a pool, and then I heard it again by my ear. Close. Too close. I flinched. I turned and hit the frame with my shoulder, and the empty bell frame creaked and the old rope brushed my cheek. It smelled like dead kelp and old smoke. I backed off from it and my boots slid in a film. A second wet handprint slid beside mine like someone had put their hand down there at the same time as me. Same angle. Same grease. I wiped it away. It came back. Same size. Same lines. I put my hand on top of it and pressed. Another set bloomed to the left, as if I had 2 more hands. I took my hand away and rubbed my forehead. I breathed with my mouth open to get air past the salt. I thought the knocker might have been moved to the next chamber. Sometimes we stashed things when new people came down. I clipped the rope to the next ring and shuffled into a squeeze. My shoulders hit both sides. The rock was cold. I let the lantern go ahead of me on the line and pushed it with my head. The light threw my shadows behind me on the walls. The echoes came faster now. I counted without meaning to. 1.5 from my word to my own return, then just 1, then less. It meant the water was moving in. The gaps close when the airspaces get tight. Everyone knows that. I told myself I had time. I got stuck at my hips and had to exhale to slide. The lantern flickered and threw bars over everything. The rope rubbed my belly. The passage opened a hand's width, and then I fell into the next low space, and my knee hit a rock, and I swore again. The echo said my swear before I finished it, right by my ear, like a kid giggling it back, and then again from ahead, late. I crawled, elbows scraped, skin tight and salty. This chamber had a pool in the middle, and the air above it moved like a breath. There were names here, too. I put the light up and saw them under the water, the shallow cuts we made, shifting with the ripples. Not where they should be. Letters bent, moved. My own name slid as a wave crossed it. The lines, not carving lines, but sliding under like baitfish. I said it. I don't know why I did. It came out like a cough. Mark. That's me. I didn't intend to tell anyone. Habit. The return did not come off the far wall. It came close, behind my right ear, warm and wet, like someone there and a tongue too heavy. Mark, it said. My name, but with a lump in it. Something pressed my shoulder from behind, and I put my back to the wall in panic and hit wet rock. There was no one there. The sound bent and pulled at the back of my head. My eyes watered. It felt like fingers pushing through a door, soft first, then hard. I scrambled to stand. The rope jerked against my hip like something had grabbed it, and I rounded on it and saw the fibers lifting and separating, one by one, like little hairs. My heart kicked. I held the line like I could calm it. The lantern popped. The room went black for a breath and then came back too bright. In that black, a hand slid in mine. It was bigger than mine, and it wasn't. It had too many knuckles. I screamed. My scream came back inside my mouth. It hurt. Bruises bloomed on my wrists I couldn't see yet. I could feel them. The echo of all we'd done squeezed my ribs like a belt, and I couldn't get a full breath. "Stop it," I said. I was crying now, and I hated that. "I'm fixing it." My voice went out thin and came back thick, like the chamber was answering. "Fix," it said, and then "it," later, from under the water, like bubbles. I tried the counter prayer again. I spoke each word like a step. My timing was off. The echo stepped in between my words and changed the beat. The gap between my sound and the answer was shorter now than the time for a blink. The water rose to the edge of the pool and touched my toes. I backed to the far side and climbed a lip where barnacles tore the skin of my palms. The knocker wouldn't be here. It had to be at the back altar. The one we only used on the worst nights. The one behind the squeeze we called the gullet. I hated that place. I went anyway. I clipped to the next ring and pulled myself on the rope. The line creaked and I heard a tiny snap inside it that did not cut through but hinted. Frayed. I tasted blood from my lip and salt on my teeth. The air tasted like pennies. I kept going. The gullet was worse than I remembered. The rock pressed the light close. I pulled the lantern with my chin on the metal. It burned my skin. I cussed, and the cuss came back a fraction early and made me bite it. I pushed with my toes, and my heel slipped into a pocket full of cold water and something soft. I did not pull backward. I shoved forward, and my shoulder popped through and I breathed again. The back altar was there. It was smaller, cramped, and had more barnacles. The old offering bowl was fused to the rock by shells. The crack down the middle ran true up the center. Someone had hit it with something before, long ago. We had. We told ourselves it had to open to take the pressure. That was a lie. We hit it because the sound told us to make a door. We made one. The bell frame in here was still, no bell. The empty ring hung like a mouth. The rope here was new old. We had spliced it once and the splice was stiff. There, under the shell, I saw wire. Not sea wire. My wire. The knocker. 3 finger bones joined. Child size. I saw the curve of a nail. It was wedged in with barnacle. I dug with my fingers and tore skin and left blood, and the shells drank it and the salt burned. I wedged the knife in the crack and twisted. The lantern sputtered and went low, and I pulled smoke in and choked. The rope on my hip creaked. I got the wire loose. It cut my thumb. I pulled the knocker free, and it came with a wet pop and left a print that was not mine. It was small. 8 prints bloomed around my hand like a crown. The bones were slick. I had wrapped these myself once. I felt the twist in the wire where I had twisted it with my teeth when my hands were slick and the tide was angry. "I'm sorry," I said. I said it to the stone because there was no one else. It came back faster than it should have, and then slower, like 2 people answering. The water started to enter the chamber floor like breath through a crack. Low tide only holds for a while. I had taken too long. I put the bones in my pocket. I said, "It's done. It's over." It was not over. The pressure outside changed. The echo learned me. That's the only way I can say it. It learned my beat. It came to meet my sounds before I made them. When I moved my hand, the air touched my fingers a half-second early. When I turned, my shoulder hurt in the place it hadn't hit yet. The hands of the old sacrifices, all their waiting, pressed through me like water through cloth. I could feel the weight of them. All the kneeling, all the fear. It was thick and heavy and tired. It bruised. It dragged. It wanted me flat and quiet. I tried to go back the way I came. The rope held for 2 pulls, and then the splice slipped and half the line went slack. I looked down and saw the fray go white and then dark as the core showed. I put my weight to the wall and took it light on the rope and moved. Water climbed my ankles. The lantern sputtered to a point of tongue, and every sputter made my heart kick. Every time it almost went, the echo of that almost came 2, 3 times, early and late, short gap, shorter, like it was practicing. I entered the squeeze on my right side. I know better. You go left, leaders say left, so the heart side has space. I wasn't thinking. The rock took my chest, and a hand I could not see took my back. It pushed. I couldn't get air. I heard bone knocks then. Not from me. From inside the stone. A steady 3, pause, 2. We had used that beat to call. I hadn't done that. The sound used me now. It knocked a word I didn't want to hear. My name, but in knocks. The same cadence we taught ourselves. I bit my tongue so I didn't make sound, and my blood hit the rock and the echo took the taste and fed it to me. I gagged and pushed. My light threw my face back at me from a slick on the rock. Not water. Old polish from hands. Or fish oil. I don't know. It was dark mirror enough. My face looked wrong. My mouth wasn't alone. There were more mouths. Not on my flesh. In the picture. Stacked inside my teeth. Open, not making sound. Old mouths. Some with broken teeth. Some with none. I shut my eyes. That didn't help. The echo had my head inside it. I could hear 100 throats. None of them had air. I did the only thing I hadn't done. I jammed the knife in the crack of the altar and leaned my weight and snapped it. Stone doesn't snap easy. This did. It let go with a wet sound like a cough and split a hand's width. A breath of cold came up out of it, hard enough to blow grit in my eyes. The knock changed. It went from inside to everywhere. All the pressure of the waiting thing had been behind that stone. I had made it a door. It went through me. It hurt like a wave that doesn't fall. It squeezed my ribs and I felt something move in my chest, like I had swallowed a fist. I don't know if something cracked. Light went thin, like paper. The lantern went out. I slid back into the squeeze blind. The belly of the cave took me. The rope gave a long cry and snapped. It let go from the ring. I fell half a foot and jammed in the rock, shoulders up, hips down. Water was at my back now, cool, then cold, then colder as the tide pushed in. Hands I could not see took my wrists and moved them a little. Too many fingers. They put my hands where they wanted them. Beside 2 old prints that were darker. They fit me like I had always been meant to fill them. I tried to pull free, and the rock tore my arms and I bit my wrist and tasted salt and copper. I got one elbow up. The echo put it down. I heard the bell frame move. Not ring. It had no clapper. But move. The ring touched the hook. It made a flat sound. The cave answered. Early, then late, then early again. The gaps were small. There was no more room for echo. The water rose to my ear and I spit it out and it came back into my ear from the wrong side because the passage bent the air. I laughed like an idiot, and the sound went into the wall and came out of my mouth later, and I heard myself laugh again from the rock. That scared me more than anything. I did what I should not have done. I called to it. I said my name again so I could know where I was. It liked that. It came from behind my ear like lips and teeth and rope burn and said me. Then the hands in the dark squeezed and pulled, and I knew then that we hadn't given anything to the tide back then. We had given it to the waiting sound we made with the bell. Sound and water made a body, and it used us to practice. It needed a name it could say right. Mine was easy. I have an easy mouth. I shoved the bones from my pocket. The knocker. I don't know why. I felt like it was burning. I threw them down the crack to get them away from me, and the sound changed again, like a lung finally got to draw, and the push came harder. It wasn't just in the stone anymore. It was free in the air. It moved. It dragged. It crushed. It rubbed me into the rock like a stain. I put my mouth to a dry place and said one thing. "Don't," I said. To the walls. To whoever read it. To myself. Then the water hit my face and filled my ear, and I got quiet. Because I didn't have a choice. I am going to stop. That was where it ended for me. My name is Evan. I'm with the volunteer rescue. I took this part because the family asked somebody not from the papers to write it down. It was me, went in with the officer when the tide turned. Low slack. We followed the rope routes in that cave because you can get turned around fast. The rope at the mouth was cut clean near the ring. Not frayed. A cut. We found another length farther in. Snapped. We found a lantern with the glass smoked black on the inside and heat marks on the chin bar. We found an old knife blade in a crack and no handle. We found the handle later. It was bone wired together. 3 finger bones, wired. I bagged it. I did not like the feel of it. It smelled in there the way it does. Salt like a slap in the nose. Air like a penny in the mouth. The bell frame over the first chamber moved when we passed, even though we didn't touch it. No clapper. It made that dry metal scrape a ring makes when it hits iron. It did it again after, when we were 2 chambers back. Surges, the officer said. Tide. Maybe. It felt like a person shifting their shoulder. We didn't find Mark. We found wet handprints where we found his lantern. Not just 2. A lot. Some new, some old, some small, some that looked rubbed into the rock like polish. We found barnacles scraped fresh with blood in them, but not much blood. The tide takes that. We heard knocks, but this cave knocks. Everybody in town says don't listen to that. Rocks talk. You get scared and you hear words. It was 3, pause. 2, repeat. Bone knocks. It sounded like somebody tapping with teeth. I'm not a writer. I'll just say this. When I was crouched at the gullet, I heard my name. Not in a voice. It stepped up in the knocks. The officer didn't. He heard something else. A cough, maybe. He asked if I was all right. I lied and said yes. I put my ear to the rock, and I hate that I did. I heard words that weren't words. I heard the mouth of that story open and close in the stone. It kissed my ear and said, don't. Then the bell frame out at the mouth swung and hit bare iron, and the sound moved past us like a body. The water wasn't to our knees yet. The air went thin. We backed out. I keep telling myself that was smart. You don't die for a dead man. I got outside, and the air felt wrong. It was like the echo had gotten out. That is not a thing, but I am saying what I felt. The old bell frame swung once with no wind. No clapper. That ring hit iron again. I still feel it in my teeth when I lie down. The handprints dried white. The bones in my bag clicked by themselves on the walk-up. That happens. Stuff shifts. I'll end with what I can't forget. When the tide covered the mouth and we were up on the rock, a sound came up through the cliff from a place with no air. Knocks. 3. Pause. 2. Over and over. It was steady, and then it speeded up until there was no gap anymore. Just a rub. Like a lot of hands on stone. like a mouth moving with no breath. I thought it said his name first. After that, it said mine. Then it stopped. The bell frame moved one last time and there was no wind. We went home and I washed my hands in the sink and there were wet handprints beside mine for a second. Just a second. Then not. That's all I got. I can still hear the iron touch iron when nothing swings. I can still taste the salt like a coin. If you go down there and you hear your name beside your ear, don't say it back. Knock if you have to. Don't say it. Or it will learn you. I don't go near that part of the shore at low tide anymore. I hear a bell that should not ring, and after, a word, knocking, from inside the stone. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, feed the algorithm, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe. It's the only way to keep the stories coming. And if you're brave enough, there's another one waiting right after this. See you on the next one.